Okay, so you're looking at like a display case or maybe a website, and it's just overflowing with dabbing stuff. Bangers, nails. It's kind of confusing, right?
It's kind of confusing, right? Especially if you're new to it all. I definitely remember scratching my head trying to figure out, okay, is a banger just a fancier nail, or what is the actual difference?
That's a super common place to start. It can feel a bit, well, overwhelming when you first look at all the gear. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into for you today. The goal here is really simple. Clear up the confusion between dabbing bangers and nails. We've looked at quite a bit of information, articles focusing just on these tools, some materials, science perspectives from university labs like Oregon State and Colorado, flavor science stuff from the National Library of Medicine,
Well, okay.
terpene research from Washington State University,
Yeah.
gleaning tips backed by places like the University of Wisconsin and Sandia National Labs, and even what's trending in the market, according to Statista and the Cannabis Industry Association.
So a really thorough look. We're trying to cut through that noise and help you figure out which tool might actually be the right fit for you.
All right, perfect. Let's jump right in then. What's the fundamental difference, shape, function? Because just the names banger and nail don't tell you much.
Right, the main difference really is the shape, and that shape directly impacts how it functions.
Yeah.
A banger has that sort of bucket shape,
Yeah.
flat bottom, walls going up like a little cup. Think maybe a tiny beaker without a top.
Okay. Yeah, I can picture that.
A nail, on the other hand, it's more like a post with a flat surface right on top. Kind of like, well, a nail head.
Gotcha. Simple enough shapes, but how does that actually change the dabbing experience? It's not just looks, I assume.
Oh, definitely not just looks. The shape is crucial for how the heat works. With the banger's bucket design, the heat tends to spread out more evenly across that whole bottom surface and even up the sides a bit.
Ah, okay. Even heating.
Yeah. Exactly. And that even heating generally gives you smoother vapor, often cooler too, because the vapor has more space inside that bucket to sort of expand and cool down before you inhale.
Interesting. Okay, so smoother, cooler from a banger. What about the nail then? Where the heat's more concentrated on that top platform.
Yeah, with a nail, the heat really focuses right there on top. So
Yeah.
it heats up faster and it can get hotter quicker. This usually means faster hits, maybe more intense ones, but there's also a bigger risk of it being harsh or, maybe losing some flavor if you're not really careful with your heating time and technique.
Okay, that makes sense. So quick recap. Banger, smoother, cooler, maybe better flavor potential, nail faster, hotter hits. That's a good basic framework. Now, you mentioned sources looking at materials quartz, titanium, ceramic keep popping up. Is this just about what looks cool, or does the material actually, change things significantly?
Oh, it changes things profoundly.
Yeah.
The material choice affects, well, how fast it heats up, how clear the flavors come through, and importantly, how likely it is to survive if you accidentally drop it.
Okay, definitely key factors. Let's break those down. Quartz seems really popular right now. What's the deal with quartz?
Quartz hits a really nice balance, which is probably why it's so popular. It heats up reasonably fast, maybe 10 to 15 seconds typically, and it offers excellent flavor clarity. Our source is rated about 4 out of 5 stars for that. Drop survival is kind of medium, though. Not super fragile, but not indestructible.
4 stars for flavor, that's pretty high.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is how quartz interacts with terpenes. Those compounds that give cannabis its smell and taste and potentially influence the effects.
Both the tasty bits.
Exactly, and they're delicate. The National Library of Medicine data shows they break down easily at high heat. So think of it like making good tea. You want gentle, consistent heat, not boiling rage. Quartz, especially thicker quartz, holds heat moderately well and heats evenly, helping you stay in that ideal temperature zone longer.
The Goldilocks zone, someone called it. Not too hot, not too cool.
Precisely. Research from Washington State University, for example, shows many key terpenes start vaporizing around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. A good quartz banger can hover around that temp for maybe 20 seconds or so.
Giving you time to actually taste things like, myrcene before they just burn off?
Exactly. Myrcene's boiling point is around 330 degrees Farah, so quartz gives you a better shot at experiencing it properly compared to something that spikes temperature really fast.
Okay, that really clarifies why material matters so much for flavor. What about titanium, then? Sounds like the tough guy.
Titanium's definitely the workhorse, yeah. Super durable. It heats up incredibly fast, like 5 to 8 seconds sometimes.
Whoa.
And drop survival is high. You're probably not going to break a titanium nail easily.
But there's always a but.
The trade-off is usually flavor clarity. Our sources put it at maybe 2 stars. Because it heats so quickly and gets so hot, it's really easy to scorch your concentrate.
Mm.
And that means potentially losing those subtle, nuanced flavors you might be looking for.
Okay, so durable, fast, but maybe not for the flavor chasers out there. Got it. What about ceramic? Where does that fit in?
Ceramic's interesting. It takes the longest to heat up, maybe 20 to 25 seconds, but
Right.
it actually offers pretty good flavor clarity, about 3 stars.
Okay, better than titanium on flavor.
Yes. But its big weakness is fragility, lower drop survival. It can chip or crack much more easily if you drop it. Ceramic also holds heat for quite a while once it gets hot, which can be good for consistency, but you need to be careful not to overheat it right at the start.
Right, so fragile, slow heat up, but decent flavor and holds heat well. Lots to consider there. Now, something I hadn't really considered is how the tool might affect the glass rig itself. You mentioned rig health.
Yes, and this is actually pretty important. Think about the shape again. The banger usually has that L-shaped arm, right?
Yeah.
That design puts the really hot part further away from the joint of your rig. This significantly reduces thermal shock, that rapid temperature change stress. The materials lab at Oregon State flags thermal shock as a major reason glass breaks. Nails, sitting right in the joint, transfer heat much more directly. Over time, that repeated heating and cooling right on the joint can increase the risk of cracking.
That makes total sense. Definitely don't want to break your expensive rig because of your nail choice. Okay, let's talk cleaning. The not so fun part, maybe. Keeping these things clean.
Yeah, essential though. And the cleaning does vary by material. For quartz, the usual recommendation is a gentle torching after use to burn off residue. Then sometimes, a soak in isopropyl alcohol needs to be high concentration, like 91% or more. University of Wisconsin actually backs this for cleaning lab glass.
Okay.
And interestingly, you generally want to avoid soaking quartz in water long term. Sounds weird, but it can apparently cause tiny micro cracks over time.
Water. Really? Okay, good tip. What about titanium? Seems like it would get pretty nasty.
Titanium is durable, but yeah, it needs a specific process called seasoning.
Seasoning, like a pan.
Sort of. Sandia National Labs confirms that when you heat titanium really hot initially, it forms a thin, protective layer of titanium dioxide, TiROs. This layer helps prevent stuff from sticking as badly. Some also say it makes the surface less reactive, potentially improving taste slightly compared to raw titanium, though that rapid heat up still impacts the main flavor profile.
Huh.
So it needs that initial seasoning and maybe re-seasoning now and then to keep it performing well and easier to clean.
Got it. Season the titanium. And ceramic.
Ceramic is often the easiest for day-to-day cleaning. Usually you can just wipe out the residue with that cotton swab right after you use it while it's still warm.
Oh, that sounds easier.
It is, but remember, it's fragile. So you have to
Okay.
be gentle when wiping. Don't press too hard or you might chip it.
Right. Gentle wiping for ceramic. Okay, different routines. So what are people actually using? Any idea what's popular out there? Our sources mention some market trends for like 2025.
Yeah, the Statista data paints a pretty clear picture for the U.S. market in 2025. It looks like quartz bangers are projected to dominate, holding around 68% of the market share.
Wow, over 2/3. That's huge.
It is. Traditional nails are estimated at around 20%, and then you've got some hybrid designs making up the rest.
Okay, nearly 70% for quartz bangers. Why such a strong preference? What's driving that surge?
It seems to be a few things coming together. First, as cannabis becomes legal in more places, you get more consumers who are really interested in the specific flavors and effects of different strains and concentrates.
The terpene focus, right?
Exactly. Dispensaries market those terpenes heavily. And if you want to actually taste those subtle notes they're selling you on, quartz is often seen as the best tool for the job, especially for low-temp dabs.
Makes sense.
Plus, you often see budtenders using quartz bangers for demonstrations, especially showing off low-temp techniques, which naturally influences what new users end up buying.
Yeah, if you see it used effectively and taste the difference, you'll probably want one. Okay, so we got the differences. Materials, cleaning, popularity. Now, the big question. How does someone listening decide which one is actually right for them?
And that's where it gets personal, right? The best tool really depends on what you prioritize. What do you value most in the experience? One of our sources actually laid out a pretty simple decision tree that might help.
Oh, nice. I like a good decision tree. Let's hear it.
Okay, so first consideration.
Yeah.
Budget. If you're trying to keep costs down, say under $20, titanium is probably your best bet to start.
Okay, budget option, titanium.
Next,
Mm-hmm.
what's your main goal? If it's purely about getting the best, most accurate flavor from your concentrates, then a thick-bottom quartz banger is likely the way to go, thanks to that heat retention and even heating.
Flavor focus.
quartz.
Got it.
Third, how clumsy are you? Be honest. If you're prone to dropping things the butterfingered among us,
Haha, guilty sometimes.
then titanium, with its high drop survival, is definitely the safer choice, less likely to end in tears.
Durability needed. Titanium. Okay.
And finally, do you often share sessions with friends? If so, maybe think about having a couple of options like a hybrid set to cater to different preferences or just have a backup.
Good point. Or if one person likes flavor, the other speed. Interesting.
Yeah, the Cannabis Industry Association Buyer Guide sort of touches on this idea of matching the tool to your personal ritual or style.
Right. You don't want a tool that fights against how you like to do things or risks your gear or your concentrates.
Exactly. It's finding that sweet spot, the right tool, the right material, matching your priorities to get the best experience you can.
Okay, so boiling it down. Bangers generally win for flavor, smoother hits, maybe more forgiving on temperature control because of that even heating.
Generally, yes.
Sandals are more about speed, getting that quick hit, and durability, but maybe at the cost of some of those finer flavor notes.
That's a really good summary of the main trade-offs. And ultimately, like we said, there's no single best answer for everyone. It really boils down to what you, the listener, are looking for in your experience.
This has been super helpful. I feel like I actually understand the difference now and why someone would choose one over the other. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening as they navigate this. Think beyond just banger versus nail. Consider how the material itself, that specific quartz or titanium or ceramic, is interacting with all those complex little molecules in your concentrate. How does that material science actually unlock or maybe even mask the flavors and effects you're after? Exploring that connection might just open up a whole new appreciation for the whole process.